I was just a kid kicking the ball who had aspirations of being a professional footballer. I wanted to see my mum proud of me, not just my mum, my dad and my brother.
Everyone knows who you are in the West Ham team. You're going to tell us who your famous brother is?
Ferdinand. He's taught me a couple of things, and hopefully I can go in follow in his footsteps, and if I do, I'll be happy.
Wow. The fact that I've played in the Premier League for the team that I support, that's what dreams are made of.
In goes Ferdinand! Oh, it's the equaliser! It's Anton Ferdinand for West Ham! Wonder what his brother thought of that.
To Anton, you're a great player, mate, and I would love to play alongside you one day. Best wishes and good luck. John Terry. I felt 20 foot tall reading that. It's crazy to go from that to a few years later with a massive racism case.
It's alleged that video footage shows Chelsea captain John Terry racially abusing QPR's Anton Ferdinand, a claim he denies.
It was just unstoppable. It was a whirlwind after that.
What started out as basically a war of words on the pitch just spread and started claiming reputations, started claiming international careers, managers resigning.
It triggered this huge conversation across the country. It was one of those lightning rods for the issue of racism.
Terry had been cleared of racist abuse by a criminal court, but the FA disciplinary panel has a lower threshold.
Anton Ferdinand himself hasn't said anything publicly.
The abuse on social media started immediately and never stopped. I'd wake up and expect there to be racial abuse on my phone.
Racism remains a significant problem in British football.
It's still there, it's still prevalent, the anger and the hate is still alive.
We're 9 years on, and it don't feel like there's any change. So I want to find out what's being done to sport players today. Because I've never really spoken about it, I don't think I quite understand what I went through. And I need to come to terms with the impact it did have on me. Not just as a footballer, as a person. I was looking at it like, we're playing Chelsea at home, we have to beat them. The fans, it's a derby, Anton, we've got to win this game today, Anton. We've got to win it. We've got to win it. I mean, it makes the hairs on my neck stand up now just talking about it.
Newly promoted Queen's Park Rangers hadn't played Chelsea in the Premier League for 15 years.
It was derby, it was intense, it was underdogs against wealthy neighbours.
Anton was in his mid-20s. He was just coming into his prime. He was tipped for greater things at that stage.
I remember standing in the tunnel. You're standing next to 𝗕𝗲𝗃𝗲𝗃, you're standing next to Frank Lampard, you're standing next to Ashley Cole, you're standing next to John Terry. Always looked up to John Terry. He's England captain. You know, so standing shoulder to shoulder with him, it was unbelievable.
At that time, John Terry was at the peak of his powers.
Well, you can't have much a bigger status than being the captain of England.
I mean, to say that he was capable is just an understatement. He was a warrior.
Leading up to the game, I just had that feeling that we was going to win it. I don't know why, I just had a feeling we were going to win it.
It's a very compact ground here at Loftus Road, and Helgeson here for Queen's Park Rangers goes down. 𝗏𝗏 has given Queen's Park Rangers a penalty. Queen's Park Rangers take the lead.
Chelsea were raging by the second half, absolutely raging. They'd conceded a penalty, they'd lost 2 players. You can see in the footage, it had got to them, and they lost it. I mean, it was a collective meltdown.
It's still described as one of the dirtiest West London derbies that we can remember in the Premier League.
You would never have predicted what's happened here.
So they had a long throw. John Terry came up for the long throw. As the ball come in, I eased him out of the way, and he went down theatrically trying to get a penalty. And I turned around, I was like, get up, what's up with you? And all of a sudden, he's running barge into me, so I've got barge. and I've run and barged back into him. We're just getting into it verbally.
They were to and fro, they were giving each other abuse. Happens on a football pitch, happens a lot.
I'm not proud of what I said to him. On a football pitch, sometimes you're emotionally invested and you want to say things that hurt people. It's a game of egos. After that, I'm in the game, and I never, ever heard anything that was said other than what he said to my face. I have no idea. I'm oblivious to everything.
Well, he's an angry man at the moment, John Terry.
You're watching a game, you see something happen, and you think, did that just happen?
I said to myself, no, he didn't just say that. So I rewound it, watched it again.
There were clips going around and it was trying to decipher what he said. I mean, I'm no lip reader. It does look like, you know, what he said is pretty clear. And you thought, crikey, this is a big story.
I had no idea that anything had occurred on the pitch. Everyone was just buzzing that we'd beat Chelsea. It was going off. They were singing my name. I was enjoying it. That high it's unexplainable. You just feel on top of the world. So we're in that little corridor and John Terry goes to me, oh, what happened out there, Geez? What happened? And he giggled at me and he went, oh, banter innit, bit of banter. Yeah, I went, yeah. He went, are we cool? And I went, yeah, of course we are. Shook his hand, embraced him, gave him a little hug, as you do. And I walked off to go and see my family. I had a box at 𝘂𝗶𝗯𝗲 at the time. I walked in there with a swagger because we just beat Chelsea at home and I'm buzzing. One person goes, Anton, you all right? I'm going, yeah, of course. My mum, Anton, you all right? I'm like, yeah, of course, we'll just beat Chelsea, I'm fine. And my wife says to me, well, you better have a look at this, and handed me her brother's phone. And this is the first time I'm seeing it. And I'm looking at the phone and rage just come over me, like, you know when they say your blood boils, it just hit me.
What did you see him saying in the footage?
He said, you fucking black cunt, you fucking knobhead. Couldn't believe my eyes, if I'm honest. I couldn't believe what I was watching. Don't know, I felt hurt, but mainly anger towards him. And I wanted to hurt him. If I'm honest, I wanted to go and hurt him. What is anyone's race got to do with it? That shouldn't even enter your mind. And it was only that my mum was at the game because she's the only person that could have stopped me on the day. She said, I know what you want to do, but now's not the time. So after that moment, things weren't the same. It's the way it was dealt with afterwards, which made things escalate out of control.
The Metropolitan Police have received a complaint from a member of the public. John Terry is now the subject of a police investigation and inquiries by the FA, which could also lead to a Football Association investigation.
A lot of people still now to this day think Anton Ferdinand took John Terry to court. It's laughable. I just wanted it to be dealt with by the football authorities. I didn't want it to go to court.
Have we heard anything from Anton Ferdinand?
Anton Ferdinand himself hasn't said anything publicly.
Anton's recently retired from professional football and now works at sports management company 𝗬𝗟𝗓 with his brother Rio and cousin Max, mentoring young players.
He's my cousin, my best mate. I used to babysit him because I'm 4 or 5 years older than him. So I used to look after him, take him places, beat him up, trying to keep him on the straight and narrow, really.
Good. Good. How are you? What's happening? Nothing, man.
Looking smart, yeah.
Cheers, man. Rio played with John Terry. It wouldn't just be a hello and bye. We'd chill, have a drink and sit with them. And I was Rio's little brother to them all. What was your initial thoughts on it?
I was confused, man. Just like, whoa, where's this come from? It was a colleague of mine who I played with England, who I'd been out on many nights out with. And I was just disappointed with the way it unravelled, man. And listen, we never really spoke about it, because I don't know why we haven't really spoken about it in real depth. But the first initial thing was like, something needs to be said. But everyone was saying, bar a few close friends and family, mum especially, and dad, everyone else was saying, don't say nothing. Let the lawyers deal with it. Let this go to court. It'll be sorted out. And I feel guilty sometimes because I'm your big brother and I've always been protective. I should just come out and just said it, but I just felt powerless. I felt like, all I kept thinking was, how is this happening to my brother? I should have spoke out.
Some of me, deep down, I wouldn't have wanted you to do that, personally, because if it would have affected your career, if it would have affected where you was at the time. I knew that the incident became a massive news story. I'd walk into training and see them on the table, and I'd be on the front and back page of it, but I never actually read any of the articles, and that was my way of dealing with that. I didn't know you lot kept all of these, man.
So he put a statement out in the evening of the game.
In the last half an hour, the Chelsea captain, John Terry, has issued a statement denying allegations that he made a racist comment.
He says he'll clear his name, so watch out for that, because obviously his career as England captain is in jeopardy.
Deny, deny, deny. That's what he's doing.
We know exactly his human values and his personality, and for me, they are never in doubt.
It's like, the story that was taking shape was, John Terry would never say that. John Terry's not a racist.
The person we all needed to hear from was from Anton, because he was the victim in this. Anton wasn't saying anything, which I found very strange.
You read that.
Ferdinand must not betray history, says anti-racism campaign group Kick It Out. Anton Ferdinand should demonstrate courage, remember the sacrifices black players made in the past, and state publicly what he believes Chelsea John Terry said to him. That hurts, man. Jesus Christ. Wow.
See, in a way, I think that you could have said something, as I wanted you to at the time. It didn't have to be about everything. It could have just been, I didn't hear whatever, just like, you know, somebody could have guided you through what you can actually say without jeopardizing anything.
I beat myself up about not speaking out. But this is like opening a can of worms for me, like, which I was always felt vulnerable about. But it's like, I don't know, man. It's crazy. People will sit here and they can say, oh, why don't you just speak out? So this is my head at the time. I just want the FA to deal with it, and all I want to do is play football. That's all. I just want to play football, and I just want the FA to deal with it.
The Football Association has launched an investigation into allegations that John Terry made racist remarks in a Premier League match on Sunday. The Chelsea captain denies racially abusing Queen's Park Rangers' Anton Ferdinand.
The FA got involved, and I was happy. That's what should happen. The FA are going to deal with it, and they're going to deal with it in the right way. So they needed to come get a statement off of me. I was sitting in the room with 2 FA delegates. And they were probing me, starting to make me feel like I was in the wrong and I'd done something wrong. All I know is that I didn't feel like the victim in that room.
When Anton was interviewed by the FA, he was accompanied by his manager at the time, Neil Warnock.
I've tried to get my interview off the FA, but it turns out back then they didn't record interviews with alleged victims. I want to go and see my old gaffer to see if he remembers it the same way that I do. Gaffer.
Hey, Wilson.
How are you doing? You okay?
All right, Anton. I thought at the time, I knew they wanted to put this to bed straight away, because it had caused them an embarrassment. All the questions, I thought some of them were irrelevant. I thought they were just out of order.
Yeah.
Me. Because I said, is it Anton you're prosecuting here? Or something like that. It was something like that.
You was always there for me if I needed. You always said to me if you want to chat and stuff, but is there anything you feel that you could do better?
Now you see, if I'm honest, Anton, I don't think everybody realised what it was like. We were naive. A lot of people were naive. FA were naive, I think. But I have to say, I've shouted things in the past, which I wouldn't be proud of now. You know, it's only years later that you look back and think, wow, I were wrong then, you know. It's only, we're still learning now about what you're going through. And I do agree it's got to change. I did think you were not put to the wolves, but left on your own where you needed help. But even I didn't realise at the time, Anton. I just thought, oh, he'll be okay, he'll get over it. But it was something strange, really, because you wasn't the same player. And, you know, I noticed almost straight away that your concentration levels were diminished. You know, you were like playing in a daze. The ball was moving around you. You were just looking like into space at times.
That's actually thrown me, that has. That's actually thrown me. Because I always just assumed I was all right. I felt all right when I was playing football. In the midst of all of that, my social media, my Twitter is like daily, it's going crazy. Abuse after abuse. I feel like I can't retaliate. You just have to be professional and get on with it. You just got to shut up and deal with it. Where does that go to? When you're not releasing something, where's it going? You mentally can't deal with that as a human being if it's continuous. It's impossible. I can stand there and be macho and go, oh, I wasn't traumatised, I wasn't, but the actual fact of the matter is I actually was. Do you want breakfast? Yes, what? Yes, please. Do you like having Daddy at home now, all the time? Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Daddy prefers being here as well. What I'm doing now, speaking about it, of course it comes with a risk. And my wife will be the first one to tell you she don't want me to do this. She don't want me to talk about this.
I wanted to try and protect him from going back down the road of getting targeted by people online, like trolls, abusing him daily. It was really hard to watch him go for that, and then there's nothing really I can do for him. I can only support him. I've never been through what he's been through. So that's why I'd rather he just didn't do this. But then it is a subject that everyone needs to hear about.
Today, there has been widespread condemnation of racist abuse sent to the Crystal Palace forward Wilfried Zaha on social media.
Players are still being abused in this way. It affects their mental welfare, there's no doubt about that.
Help from whether it be the Premier League or the FA or the PFA and how to deal with it.
Jonathan Lecco is a young player on loan from West Brom to Charlton, trying to gain some experience, and part of the experience seems to be that he learned how to deal with racism on the pitch by a fellow player. It's like it's becoming the norm again. It's like, oh, that's happened again. We're in 2020 and we're still reading cases, and we're reading them regularly about racism at football. It's like, it's crazy. It gets worse. Oh my goodness. I found the hearing at which I was made to feel I had done something wrong. So he's been called the N-word and he's going into the hearing feeling that he was the perpetrator, like he had done something wrong. I had the exact same feelings. I'm gonna send him a message on Instagram privately and ask if he's okay. That's one of the biggest questions that people don't ask. Are you okay? But it just shows there's a problem, and the problem ain't been dealt with. It upsets me that a player today is feeling the same way that I felt 9 years ago. But if that's how they made us feel, it makes you wonder how players actually under investigation are treated.
Only a 4-minute section of John Terry's interview with the FA has been made public, when it was played at the criminal trial.
I've never heard John Terry's recollection of it. I've never heard his statement. I want to hear how the FA went about it. Did they interrogate him the way that they interrogated me? Well, listen to this.
Anton and John Terry were both interviewed by the same lead investigator.
Me and Anton having an altercation still, when I feel as though he's said to me, the black. Now, I don't at any point think he's calling me a black. Yeah. I think he's accusing me of calling him a black.
I didn't say that.
In the altercation we've had.
Okay.
See, that don't even make sense.
And then, obviously, it's, you know...
Does it?
And even in my statement, it's clear to say that I repeat what he said and then call him a at the end of that.
Like, what type of shit is that?
Okay. Let's just go back a little bit. You come together, you go to the ground, I think you put your hands in the air, but the referee's not going to give you anything. We won't go into referee's bumming. If you watch the footage, you bump into Anton. Anton shoves you back, actually.
Yeah.
And then...
He bumped into me, but I shoved him back.
If you watch the footage, I can show it you. That's when you're having a bit of verbal there.
Okay.
Then you said you start moving, because you're getting your way back, because play's about to start again.
Position, and that's when he said black. Now, clearly, as I said before, I don't think he's calling me a black. But at the same time, I then take quite strong offence to that, hence why I done my statement straight after. Why I want this cleared up, because I've been called a lot of things in my football career and outside of football as well, but being a racist is not one I'm prepared to take at all. And I'm not having anyone, and let alone Anton, think that at all about me, because that's not my character.
He's under suspicion of racial abuse, and the lady's interviewing him. It's like she's having a chat with her mate. Like, you came out of it and I spoke to you and you're like, oh, I felt like a criminal.
Yeah, hearing that confirms for me that he got treated differently. Just the sharing of a joke says it all for me.
Mm-hmm.
The FA say they did challenge John Terry's account in their interview with him, but were unable to provide the full interview.
The thing that I don't like about listening to this stuff and revisiting things is takes me back to a place of anger, and I hate it. I'm not naturally an angry person, so being angry is like alien to me in that moment. I trusted the system, I trusted the authorities. This is the body that's the heart of English football.
What is the process today? There's a board meeting to talk about a whole range of matters, as you know.
2 months after John Terry and Anton Ferdinand were interviewed, the FA appoint their first ever woman and person of colour to their board, Dame 𝗿𝗓𝗄.
He was someone who had experienced racism, who had expertise, and she was not simply walking into the building, but she was going onto the FA board, which would actually at the time have been stale, male and pale.
With the case now set to go to trial, there was debate within the FA as to whether John Terry should remain as England captain.
My view was that you cannot be captain of the England team subject to a criminal racial abuse charge. If you're going to have a set of values, you have to stand by them.
How you doing, 𝗿𝗑𝗲?
Not bad, Anton, not bad. How about you? I think my presence there made a difference in terms of the conversation, but it was a brave step, which they took.
5 days after making their decision, the England manager, 𝗵𝗵𝗆 resigned from the job.
He said, well, I wasn't consulted about it, and it was the wrong decision, so I'm off ski.
I joined just as the John Terry issue emerged.
Was there any time where you thought they were trying to protect him?
I think initially they leant towards, obviously, the captain's perspective. I think there were others, including myself, who were raising this as a serious issue.
I've now listened to John Terry's interview and compare it to my experience. It was like a chat amongst friends.
Really? Whether you call that unconscious bias, whether it means that if you're with John Terry and you're white and male and you're part of that particular culture, that it's mates. We're in this together. And somehow, when they're talking with you, that's not the case. And it might be that those individuals don't realise it, and I'm sure would be, some of them, shocked that actually they have treated people differently, and they've treated people differently because of race. And that's why your experience of 9 years ago still has resonance, sadly, today, and that these institutions or organisations have to change.
Do you think that the organisation that you entered into in 2011, do you think that's the same organisation that is here today?
No, I don't. I do think the organisation has changed and evolved. And I do believe that that decision for Terry not to be the captain was one of those landmark moments.
When John Terry lost the captaincy, it was like it became my fault. And everywhere I played, I got booed.
What happened to you? You know, I could feel my guts constrict. And I feel terrible now thinking about it, not knowing that, because I would have stood up. I would have said more. And you should not have been held up to account because you were the person who experienced the racial abuse. So that's an insight that I didn't have prior to this conversation. And what it speaks to me about is that when certain decisions are made, how those who have made the decision need to speak up more about it. The responsibility lies where it should lie, and that is with the institutions that need to change.
That's the only way we're going to make change. We need organisations to do better. They need to try and understand what it's like to be racially abused. But I still think, at the time, I could have said more.
The week after Anton was interviewed by the FA, he was advised to only put out a brief statement.
I have very strong feelings on the matter, but in the interest of fairness, I'm not wishing to prejudice what I am sure will be a very thorough inquiry by the FA. This will be my last comment on the subject until inquiry is concluded. Well, how can I say I have very strong feelings on the matter, but don't say what them feelings are? People who know me from a kid in football at West Ham, they talk about my mental strength. This don't show mental strength. I should have shut everyone down and just done what I've been brought up to do, which is to speak. Me and Ria were brought up on a friary estate in Peckham. And Mum and Dad raised us to know that sometimes we'll be treated differently because of the colour of our skin.
I used to feel like it was bigger though, man.
Yeah, when you're little, everything looks
I used to jump on that roof there.
Yeah.
I remember I was on the way from school to West Ham and walking down the street, and the police come and started walking with us and talking, and then there was like an end of a spliff on the floor. Well, he kicked it, he went, "Whose is that then? Which one of you's just dropped that?" "It's got to be one of yours," he was saying to me. "It's got to be one of yours." And I go, "Why has it got to be one of ours?"
Because you're black.
Why is it?
It's as simple as
Why
that.
is it? Then they wanted to search us. And I remember you and Mum always saying to us, if you're getting searched by the police, don't let them put their hands in your pocket. You turn out your pockets for them.
That brought me back to when I first met your mum.
You're walking down the road and, there's guys will be driving past and shouting that stuff.
My mum, she was a white woman who loved a black man in an era where that weren't the thing to do. My mum went through some stuff, man. I remember, she used to get spat on. If I was in the pram, we'd get spat on by white males. So she's been through that for us. I remember you and Mum was always saying, speak out, say something.
Although we were not disappointed, but although we'd rather you'd voice your opinion, and it was a little bit difficult for us, so...
When you're in that bubble as well, isn't it? When you're in the midst of the whirlwind that's going on, all the media attention, all the press, so it's hard to make decisions when it's like that, isn't it?
I wasn't myself, you know that I wasn't myself.
No, definitely. And it's hard to stand and watch, you not being you.
Anton's been waiting to talk about this for a long time. The incident that he was involved in was the catalyst, really, probably for a downturn in his career. Who knows how I would react or anyone else would react in that situation when every stadium that you go to, people are making you feel like you're the instigator, the aggressor in the situation, that you really are the victim, and shouting obscenities at you all the time regarding the case, so you can never get away from it.
If John Terry don't play well, it's Anton's fault. He's got too much on his mind. They've taken the captaincy off him. It's Anton's fault. It's like I was the one who deserved to be racially abused, it felt like. Things being thrown at my mum's house, eggs, bricks, the lot. Hate mail. I'm gonna rape your mum and your sister. I'm gonna make you watch me rape them and strangle them.
A few weeks after John Terry was charged with racial abuse, QPR were drawn against Chelsea in the FA Cup, and Anton received bullets in the post.
Given the threats directed towards him, Anton Ferdinand arrived looking remarkably relaxed. Outside, the police were taking no chances. Full body searches for every fan.
Just thinking, wow, bullets. Come on, guys. Are you being serious?
Yeah, we are talking about a beautiful game only on the surface. This has always been here. This is the ugly side beneath the veneer of respectability that football has. Underneath there is a really horrible side that black players have to endure.
All that love just was ripped out of me. I didn't have no love for the guy. I hated the game. I hated what the game stood for. Hated it.
9 months after the incident, John Terry arrived at Westminster Magistrates Court, pleading not guilty to racial abuse. He faced a maximum fine of £2,500.
There was so much attention around the trial. I mean, it was huge. It was the classic English media circus with cameras and fans and people milling around outside because it was the England captain. But also at the heart of it was a subject that this country hasn't actually addressed properly, which was the issue of racism.
Witnesses were called to give evidence, including 𝗥𝗏𝗃𝗏, who testified in his teammate's defense.
Given the footage that existed, given the fact that there were holes in his version of events, I think there was a widespread feeling that it wasn't going to end well for John.
I actually thought the evidence was fairly weighted against John Terry. I just thought the moment you said those words, whatever the context, those words are unacceptable.
I did expect that he was going to be found guilty, but I was wrong. He wasn't found guilty in the court of law. What I don't understand about the trial, to this day, is how the verdict came out the way that it did and why it actually went to court in the first place. These are your chambers. Yep.
𝗃𝗶𝗰𝗲 was the prosecuting QC for the Crown Prosecution Service. John Terry's defence in court was the same as he gave to the FA inquiry, that he was simply repeating the offending words back to Anton.
So the thing I don't understand is why it went to court. I didn't want it to go to court personally.
A complaint was made by a member of the public to the police. Now, the police have got a duty at that stage to investigate complaints. Was the Chelsea football captain using racially abusive words in a way which contravened the law in a football match that was being broadcast all around the world? And you don't need me to spell out the public interest in discouraging that sort of behaviour if it's true.
Given how blatant the actual footage was of what he was saying, how could he have been found not guilty?
The critical issue all revolved around not indeed whether certain words were said, but the way in which they were said. In other words, were they an insult or were they a question? The magistrate said this in his findings: there's no doubt the words were directed at Mr. Ferdinand. Overall, I found Anton Ferdinand to be a believable witness on the central issue. Mr. Terry's explanation is, certainly under the cold light of forensic examination, unlikely. However, I accept that it is possible that Mr. Terry believed at the time and believes now that such an accusation was made. It's therefore possible that what he said was not intended as an insult, but rather as a challenge to what he believed had been said to him. In those circumstances, there being a doubt, the only verdict the court can record is one of not guilty. In other words, the magistrate is saying that, considering all of the evidence, he thinks that there is room on what he's looked at for there to have been a misunderstanding.
Even after he explained it to me, it's still hard for me to accept the verdict. But I now understand why it went to court. It is the right thing to do, to stand up for what you believe in terms of racism. The only thing I wish is that it didn't have the impact that it did have on my family.
Ferdinand, reaction to the decision?
After the trial, my mum couldn't believe it. It would have hurt her to see me go through this in front of the whole of England. That's when she started to get ill. My mum died from cancer. And I sit here today and I think, is that my fault? I played a part in these things happening to my family.
I think Anton feels that he let a lot of people down. Mum, you know, Rio, the family. For what, I don't know. That's just the way he is. You know, he's a person who wears his heart on his sleeve.
I want to go and speak to someone who helps people that have been racially abused, to see if others have a similar experience to me.
When I think about people who come to therapy looking for ways to deal with the impacts of racism, they're often, I would say, plagued by the thoughts of the situation. You know, that this happened, and they replay it again and again in their minds, and they wonder, why didn't I say that? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do it back then? These are moments that we can't get back.
Yeah. I still carry that feeling of letting people down for not speaking up.
You felt guilt.
Yeah. I still feel guilt, and that eats away at me probably more than anything. I don't know how to get rid of it.
Do you feel that you were aware of what you were thinking, feeling?
I was angry more than anything.
Yeah.
And I knew that because I was angry, if I would have spoke out, it would have been the stereotype.
Right. Okay.
It would have been a stereotype.
So you would have been...
Young black man who fires from the hip and shatters his mouth off.
And this is what people experience a lot when they experience racism. You know, people are concerned of playing the race card. I can't talk about this because I'm going to lose my job. I can't talk about this because, do you know what? I'm scared. I don't know what the repercussions are going to be. The impact of racism, first and foremost, is silence.
Yeah. Wow. Never really thought of it like that.
John Terry leaving home this morning as the FA hearing over his part in an alleged abusive incident against QPR defender Anton Ferdinand gets underway. Last night, the Chelsea captain, who denies the charges, announced his retirement from international football.
Despite the court finding John Terry not guilty of racial abuse, the FA decided to continue their investigation, which had been paused by the criminal proceedings. Their independent panel were working to a much lower burden of proof.
The Commission is quite satisfied on the balance of probabilities that the offending words were said by the way of insult.
He was found guilty of using abusive racial language, fined £220,000, banned for 4 games, and was required to attend an educational course.
He got found not guilty in the court of law. So it was brave of the FA to come out and then find him guilty off the back of that.
Yeah, they didn't have to take it any further, but they did.
To me, that's a good thing, definitely.
He did make an apology after the verdict came out. I want to take this opportunity to apologise to everyone for the language I used in the game against Queen's Park Rangers last October. Looking forward, I will continue to do my part in assisting the football club to remove all types of discriminatory behaviour from football. There's no direct apology to you.
The FA decision. I think it did try to send a message, but it failed. People still feel that they are being let down. People still feel that the sanction for racist abuse isn't strong enough, and they are still having to wait far too long for justice, and during that time they are having to go through a whole range of traumas all over again.
A Tottenham ladies footballer has claimed that she was racially abused by an opposition player. Renee Hector said that she heard monkey chants during the match and reported the matter to the referee. Sheffield United and the FA are investigating the claims.
How you doing, Renee? You okay?
Good.
You doing a bit of training?
Yeah, a little bit. Want to go and goal?
Go and goal? All right, then I'll have a little go. Let me do the ritual that keepers
What should you do? So you do pins? I won't smash it at you.
No chance. Oh, Megs! Oh, we're going with Megs! Unlike me, Renee chose to speak out. And I want to know how that decision played out for her.
I put a tweet out saying, such a shame that now in women's football we've got someone racially abusing, making monkey noises at me, but I let the football do the talking. And I was just stunned, like, how quickly, like, it blew up.
I have nothing but admiration for you for the way that you spoke out about it. And earlier on in my process, I was like, you know what? If it happened to somebody else, I wouldn't want them to speak out because of the abuse that they'll get.
This is one of the tweets.
Bloody hell, man.
So I struggled so much mentally, still with like all the comments like running through my head. You know, when you feel, I've never felt so alone. You know, I had people go, oh, you know, we support you, like if you need it kind of thing, but it's sort of like what does that mean? I had to pretend that I was okay at football so that I didn't get dropped. I know if I didn't speak out about it, I know I definitely would have had an easier life up to this point, 100%. But if I could do it again, I would speak out again because I think the more and more people you have speaking out about it as time goes on, you know, the more repercussions there are for the people that are committing the abuse or whatever, and, you know, the more the media, the FA and whatever, they have to listen.
I feel a bit embarrassed about it, that I didn't speak out, and if one thing's come out of this is that I do beat myself up a lot about not speaking out at the time of it.
I understand how you feel, but I don't think you realise like, how important what you're doing now will be. To still care about wanting to do better for the next generation, I think is so powerful and important, and that means a lot to me. You shouldn't be ashamed of not speaking up about it then, because you're speaking about it now.
It was a really, really good talk. Something that, coming out of it, made me realise I needed. I say I feel a lot lighter. It just feels right that I am speaking out, even though it's years later. My mum, she's not here to see it, but I know she's with me. I know that she'll be proud of me doing this. I knew she wanted me to do this. I know she wanted me to do this. It just feels right. I know she wanted me to do it. I know it. Not only doing it for my kids, but for my mum, for her legacy, what she meant to us as a family.
The last time Anton spoke to John Terry was in the changing rooms at Queen's Park Rangers on the day of the incident.
Yeah, it's the first time I'm even contemplating contacting him. He's never tried to get in contact with me. He might have through people maybe, but nothing's ever come to me. And if I'm honest, I probably would never have been ready to speak to him other than now. It's not a situation where I want to bash him for it. I'm over that, I'm past that. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than my feelings. This isn't an Anton versus John Terry situation. And it never has been for me and my family. It's always been about the bigger picture, about what went wrong throughout it and how not to deal with a situation if it comes up again. My concern is the next generation, from here in and out. This is my concern. It is about change. Son, I'm owning it now, I'm talking about it. I've got my voice back. I can't bear the thought of young players today going through what I went through. At the time, I didn't feel like I got enough help from Kick It Out, football's anti-racism charity.
How you doing? Yeah,
Thank you, how are you?
Didn't know if you wanted.
I want to know if they give better support to players today. How much do you know about my case in terms of Kick It Out's perspective? Because we didn't feel the level of support that we wish we would have. This is on my shoulders. I felt that way.
It pains me to hear you talk like that. It pains me to hear you talk about us like that. The game has never dealt with these issues in the right manner. The game has never protected the victim. The game has always exposed the victim to being victimised again. So when an incident happens, I'm not supposed to talk to you. So I'm not supposed to support you because football's rules says I'll be impeding an investigation. Hold on. So basically what you're saying is you're hanging the victim out to dry until the end of the investigation.
100%, you should be able to go and speak direct to that player so he doesn't feel the way that I felt, so he doesn't feel the way John Lecco felt. When you do your research on Kick It Out, you then realise it's funded by by the FA.
By the organisations.
It's funded by the PFA. It's funded by the Premier League.
I feel that every time I speak, I put my job at risk. When you're criticising the authorities, they don't take too kindly to it. And remember, we're criticising about a particular topic that we should all be concerned about and all want to do better at. That's why I continue to feel that, are we taking the situation, the stories around racism and discrimination seriously? Or are we continuing, 9 years on, to pay a little bit of lip service?
I wouldn't want my worst enemy to feel that way.
I agree with you.
I felt.
I agree with you. But when you don't see people in those organisations that look like me and you, that feel the impact of what has happened to an Anton Ferdinand, is it really their desire to want to represent you in the way that they should? I would hope that things are changing. We won't know until someone else has to go through it, though, will we?
In June 2020, Premier League footballers collectively decided to take the lead in the fight against racism. Players and staff took the knee before matches in support of the Black Lives Matter movement.
I saw John Terry take a knee. Fair play to him, but he got backlash off the back of that on social media. Hypocrite, what is it? Wow, the irony of him doing that, but he racially abused Anton Ferdinand. He got all of this stuff. He's doomed if he does, he's doomed if he don't. I hope him taking a knee and him showing that he's against racism in football and racism in society, I hope it's sincere, I hope it's coming from a good place. But don't just take a knee, come and speak about it. What's happening, geezer? I've sent JT an email, but if you could just give him a call and just to see if they've got it. He said, yeah, he's received it. Yeah, just ringing really to see if there's a response from John Terry yet. Hopefully it will come. One player who is up for meeting me is my mate Jordan Henderson. We played together at Sunderland when he was coming through the ranks. Since then, he's gone on to win the Premier League, the Champions League, and even captain England.
In 2011, just a week before the John Terry and Anton Ferdinand incident, Jordan was involved in his own controversy when he and the Liverpool team wore T-shirts defending their centre-forward Luis Suarez, who'd been banned by the FA for 8 matches for racially abusing 𝗵𝗂𝗏.
What's happening, bruv?
What's happening? You okay, mate?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Nice to see you.
You too, man. Things?
Yeah, good. Good.
Yeah?
So your fashion sense hasn't got any better.
Leave off you. Hey, leave off you. Leave off. Hey. I wanted to speak to Jordan because he's gone from wearing a T-shirt then to now becoming one of the most outspoken, white, prominent football players that speaks about racism.
People will probably look at me and probably say, well, what do you know? Because you haven't been racially abused. Mm-hmm. and I understand that as well. So for me, it's just making sure that, yeah, my teammates are okay, my friends are okay, and things like racism isn't acceptable.
But, you know, people then looking at it and going, but hold on a minute, you wore a T-shirt that supported Suarez.
I think you learn a lot from experiences. Obviously, I was a young player at the time, so it was something that I never really experienced before. Looking back on it now, yeah, I'm not sure the club or everybody dealt with it in the best way. And I think from a player point of view, our mindset, I think, was on Louis and how to protect them, but really, we didn't really think about 𝗵𝗂𝗏. And I think that's where we got it wrong from top to bottom. If people want to point me out, then I'll take full responsibility as well as a player. People will say that's a bit late, but I suppose it's better late than never.
I admire the fact that Jordan has taken responsibility for his own actions. To me, that is powerful. And I want to use my own experiences to try and make a difference. Because the way football's going right now, chances are young players are going to experience racism and they're going to need support just like I did. I woke up a bit anxious and nervous. I don't normally get like that. West Ham giving me the opportunity to go in and speak to a group of under-23s, you know, the boys who are close to the first team. It's important to me, isn't it? So I don't want to miss nothing. Rio. Yes, Rio.
What's up?
I'm getting ready to go to West Ham.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I am, but I'm nervous.
Listen, I don't think these things are good if you're not a little bit nervous. If you're speaking from the heart, it's fine. It will always come out right. No, listen, I'm proud of you, man. Doing this is something that, again, like, you can impact people for positive change, to be more aware of like certain things and issues, then they'll be more proud, probably.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool.
Yeah?
All right, nice one, Reem, man.
Nice one. I'll speak to you in a bit.
I'll see you later. Thank you. Bye.
Let me know how you go.
I will do. Bye. Bye. For you that don't know, I'm Anton Ferdinand. I was you 20 odd years ago, trying to get into the West Ham first team. 9 years ago, I was involved in probably the biggest racism case within English football. My life changed after that. If you was to get racially abused and something was to happen to you, you will come to a point where you start to blame yourself. Can't blame yourself. You didn't ask to be put in this position. You didn't ask to be racially abused. Because you need to understand and know that there is a support system out there. I want to be a part of that because I wouldn't want any of you to feel like how I felt. And if it ever does happen to you, reach out. Thank you, guys.